Right, Parasite. It is game 2. Louos is 1 game up. We had a really good battle in game 1. It was a very nice game indeed, with both of these players showing that they know exactly what they're doing in this game. So, Louos in the top left here as the Zerg player. In the bottom right, therefore, we have got Adam, our Terran player, opening up just as per normal, as you can see, with a little wall off at the top of the ramp. In the last game, Louos stuck with Ling tech for a very long time, and then transitioned, chucked out a few Hydras, but actually transitioned into Ultras, and ultimately was able to overwhelm the Terran stronghold. Now, in this game, this is a different map. Unlike, very hard to hold 3 bases on that last map. Your defenses are spread out and it is tricky. In this map, it's a little bit different. It is easier to hold 4 bases on this map than it is on the previous one, because there's chokes on the way in, and there's... Hang on, let me follow something slightly more interesting. There's chokes on the way in and things like that. So it is easier for a Terran to play defensively if that's what they choose to do. That said, there are an awful lot of open spaces in the middle of this map, so it does lend itself reasonably well to Zerg play as well. We've got the Expo has come down for Louos, as you would expect. So it looks like a really, really super standard Zerg opening, to be honest. Hatchery, pool, gas. This is about as straight up as you go. Just holding down that D button, basically getting your economy up and running. When the spawning pool finishes, we'll see a queen, we'll see metabolic boost be researched, and we'll see a third come down as well, or at least that's what I would expect. This for Adam. He's been in with a worker. He's had a quick look at what's up. He saw the pool timing. No pool finished yet, and that's all you need to know that you are safe to throw down this command center. If the pool's finished, maybe you think a bit risky to drop the CC because there could well be lings out, and you might choose to build it up here. Or you might choose to get a couple of Marines or something out so that you can defend this worker building. But seeing the pool half done, you know that you can just go right ahead, build on the low ground, and you don't have anything to worry about. That is what scouting is all about, folks, isn't it? That's why we do it. So, factory coming down, and again, just as the Zerg opening was looking incredibly straight up, the Terran opening looks very straight up as well. Just the single racks with a reactor being built would kind of imply that we're going to see the swap, and then the barracks will probably go into a tech lab while the factory cranks some stuff out. You don't want to fight a queen, mate. You don't want to be doing that. Run! Oh no, this Reaper is very, very low indeed. I wouldn't mind seeing a drone just pop out the back here to try and get the nibble on that, because at 4 health, literally a drone could pick it off. And Nice drops the Spore Crawler to save the life of this drone, and normally now you would see the cancel, but maybe he just lets it finish. It doesn't really matter. So these links come in, but the CC is finished up, and that's a bit of a result. I think that's a little unnecessary lifting against 4 lings, but no matter. They do get the worker, and that, it's always really frustrating when you lose the building worker to just a couple of lings if you don't have a Reaper or something at home that can nip down the ramp and sort that out. So having lost the Reaper on the other side of the map, the lights kind of go out a little bit for the Terran player. So he knows that there's a spawning pool, he knows that there's an expo, and not much else. Meanwhile, our Zerg player has no clue really what's going on in here at all. I think, this Overlord positioning, this is pretty standard stuff. You plant the Overlord against something like this. This counts as high ground, and you can see whatever comes out of your opponent's base. So he'll see these Hellions, and, to be honest, you won't really be at all surprised by that. Again, very standard stuff as a Terran opener to just put a few Hellions on the map, to clean up any lings that are just patrolling about the place, to free up the map so that it is yours to command. That's a second Reaper out, and once you've got the Hellions on the map, I'm not sure of the need for a second Reaper. Maybe this Reaper is just going to stay at home for purposes of seeing off any lings that show up. If I was playing against Protoss or something, I would think, well, this is going to be a Hellion run by. And that's why you need the Reaper. if you're not sure what I'm talking about, that's where you have 4 Hellions and you send the Reaper as well. And if the Protoss has built a wall with some units in it, the Reaper can throw a grenade, which will bump the units in the air long enough for you to run your Hellions past and get 2 shots off in the mineral line before they all die. The Viking isn't a bad choice. As we saw in the last game, this Viking will get probably a couple of Overlord kills at least, but more importantly than the kills are that it just blocks the vision. These Overlords then are no longer spread about the map. Louos, predicting that he's going to lose this Overlord to the Viking, which is absolutely true, decides to suicide it into his opponent's base, and I like that a great deal. That is the correct thing to do. These Hellions have found their way in and are getting hearty work done. There's no pull on these units at all, so the workers just stand there in a line and get toasted. The Lings are going to get a surround, but actually the Hellions just run. To be honest, I think parked in the corner to prevent the full surround from the Lings and just trade those out with the Lings would have been my choice. Personal choice, I suppose. You killed a bunch of workers, so having killed the workers, your opponent wants to hold down the D button. If you wipe up all the Lings as well, then they have to choose between Lings and workers, and that gives them a headache. If you only kill one or the other, then their path from that point on is pretty clear. So I think I'd have preferred to see the Hellions just corner themselves here and last as long as they could. That is some hearty spitting on that hatch. No messing about there. That is going to be popping out larvae for about the next decade. So a couple of Widow Mines at the front door. With the siege tank and the Hellions, I don't know. Widow Mines are fantastic, but I'd further back, please. Because what you want really, if a couple of Lings turn up, you don't want your Widow Mines firing at those couple of Lings. You want the Widow Mines as the backstop if a whole world of Lings turn up. So the siege tank is enough to deal with a couple of Lings if they turn up. You don't really need the Widow Mines to fire at that. So you put the Widow Mines a bit further back, typically. Blue Flame is being researched. I like it. Blue Flame, it basically makes Hellions more shooty. So plus 12 damage is what that does. Which means they oh no, those two won't. Look, wheel. I love it. Just random wheel left on the ground here. This little clean-up bot is going to clean that up in a bit. So you don't want to be losing the Hellions just before Blue Flame finishes up. A really common build is to get 4 Hellions in a medevac and drop it into the back of a mineral line. And when they've got Blue Flame, you just drop them in and hold, and 2 shots and just a raft of workers die, and you can load up and get out of there if you want. You often see, and I don't agree with it, you often see pros turn the Hellions into Hellbats so that the medevac can heal them, and the arguably 4 Hellbats in this mineral line kill the entire line quicker, but the problem is the Hellbats are slow and it gives the opponent longer to respond, and if the workers run, the Hellbats can't chase them. So I much prefer to see just Hellions. No mess in here. You do not want to be the Ling that just wanders across here endlessly, because a nasty piston is what you're going to get. I mean, look at this. There's 4 Widow Mines waiting to fire. There's more siege tanks than you can shake a stick at. Let's have a look at the army supply. It is in favour of the Terran. The worker supply is in favour of the Terran as well, and that makes me a little bit worried for the Zerg player, because at about the 8-minute mark as a Zerg player, I want to have at least one more base than my opponent, and I want my economy to be at least 500 up on what my Terran opponent is. So that has partially come about from, if we look, these 13 workers that have been killed have definitely slowed down the economy of the Zerg a bit. Cleaning bot. He's like the little cleaning bot out of Wally, isn't he? The foreign contaminant. He's trying to chase down the Benlings, give them a mopping. Right, this stuff moving out, and the scan just misses the move out, but he might think it's coming anyway. Let's just see what happened there. That's what happened. That's a lot of dead Ling just lying on the ground. That was savage, wasn't it? Every bit as savage as we would expect. Now, these Lings do have +1 carapace, so if it was just 1 tank or 2 tanks, they could take a hit in the face from from a siege tank and be okay. 5 siege tanks? That just flattens things. So this is not an easy position to break. Not and even when you break through, there's a planetary waiting for you. So, you know, what I wouldn't mind seeing, just a couple of suicide lings, try, you know, maybe grab 6 lings, slightly spaced out from each other, and you just right click here just to trigger the widow mines and to see, look, these have got the widow mine upgrade. Is that what the little beam means? So that they are in fact hidden and stuff. Anyway, I can't remember. They've changed it, haven't they? If they've got the upgrade, the drilling,
Yeah, the upgrade now allows them to stay hidden.
But don't this little red beam coming out the top?
Yeah,
they don't have that if they're not upgraded. Is that true?
Yep. Yeah.
So upgraded widow mines. Yeah, I'd like to see a few links suicided in here just to get a feel for what you're up against. Because if you know that you're up against this, well then you drop down twin spar for double upgrades and you hold on. You just put your elbow on the T button until you see a GG. It's roughly that, isn't it? Now this creep spread is great. We're getting well out into the middle of the map. Oh, big! This is nice. This position is just tasteful. You know, even slightly further around the corner might be nice so that you're really hitting the mineral line. A little bit more exposed, admittedly. But look, by the time this stuff gets round here, these siege tanks will have done a fair amount of damage and should have time to get them all into the medevacs. Oh no, those 2 get left behind. Didn't unsiege. That's a shame. Needs to be careful he doesn't want to lose the medevacs, and the siege up was not well timed there. But often you've already pressed the button, you've already committed to it. So the siege tanks, maybe not. You know, I would have liked that a great deal had the siege tanks both still been alive. You definitely don't want to lose these medevacs as well. That makes it very, very expensive. You know, are the hydras? Where are the hydras? Are they going to fly over this? They are. You know, 4 siege tanks and a medevac, that is expensive. So not a particularly good trade. I like the idea. It's a good plan. I think I'd have preferred the siege tanks here, and I wouldn't have minded 2 siege tanks and the other medevac full of marines. The marines being disposable and the siege tanks being things that you want to get back home again. Sensor tower, good plan. Just always a good plan. Sensor towers in general, you don't see enough of them. They are brilliant. So let's see how these links fare. The widow mine is going to the widow mine is just going to think about it. I target you, but I don't shoot. So the Zerg deciding to go back home again, having picked off the sensor tower. But there's another one. Hang on, wait. It was there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And maybe the Zerg picked it off, or maybe they just surrounded it and the siege tank splash damage killed it. Who knows? This sensor tower looks awfully isolated, doesn't it? So, Ultra Cavern, you know, why wouldn't you? Because Ultras worked extremely well in the last game. Why wouldn't they work well in this game? They would, is the short answer. There's never a time when Ultras don't work well. You know, maybe if you're against a Protoss that's gone like Skytoss, you might think Ultras are not for me. But to be honest, if you're on 6 bases, I still reckon you can win that. Battlecruiser again. We see the Battlecruiser coming in, and he's going to try and snipe down the Benling nest. He does have, he's already fired the cannony thing. If these Hydras were not all on top of each other there, this would be fine. Oh, keep shooting the Benling nest! Oh no! Oh no! So the Cattle Bruiser is trying to make good its escape. It is going to die, and it didn't get the Benling nest in the end, and that is a real shame. These siege tanks, no support. Siege tanks are awesome, but not on their own. Run! You're like the last survivor. Oh, it's horrible. I don't know what happened there. That was not. That was just not good. We didn't like that. We didn't like that at all. So the Cattle Bruiser could have got the Benling nest, didn't. These guys are going to cause at least a lift up on this, but there's enough Hydras here to snipe it down, and actually Adam doesn't even care. He's too busy setting up his defenses. Unfortunately, these 3 bends are going to trigger the first Widow Mine. You know, this is why you want your Widow Mines further back always, well behind the range of the siege tanks, you know, so that the only thing that gets through to them is stuff that's pretty determined. Oh, he's back! He's back! So the Benling nest goes, and I'd love to see the Ultra Cavern go down, but look, these Queens, it's going to be close, but I think the Queens get the Battlecruiser before it gets the... Does it? They do, and that is slightly annoying, but it's all kicking off over here. Thors annoyingly prioritise air, don't they? So having the overseers above the army actually means that the Thors focus the overseer, which is really irritating. So you've got to micro them to avoid that. Those connections were juicy. So a hearty bunch of lings dispatched by these two widow mines. Now that those have fired, I wouldn't mind seeing them repositioned. But, no biggie. Let's have a quick look at the income tab. It's actually remarkably even. So after all that back and forth, we've got pretty even income tab. The units killed is... Whew. So bear in mind, this is a number. This is the number of units killed. It's not the supply killed. So the Terran units that we've seen die have been things like siege tanks and stuff like that, and that is painful. There's barely been a Marine in this game, whereas the Zerg units that we've been seeing dying have largely been lings. What is that in there? Is that like an infestor being experimented on or something? Cool. Okay. So the tactical jump, the battlecruiser is here. It looks like Conrad is just going for it. These siege tanks, the poor siege tanks, siege up, already surrounded by lings. Oh no. That has just been shut down so hard. It's almost painful. What is there left for Adam here? Well, apparently loads of stuff, but where is it? Here. Okay, good. That's a relief. Perhaps does Louos know how much stuff his opponent has got or otherwise? Because maybe he's thinking, haha, I kill your army, now I come kill you. But he will get a bit of a surprise, because if he tries and runs into this position, it's nasty. These siege tanks, I'd like to see them just one hex closer. And the reason I say that, it just means the lings can't get around the back of them. Okay, so the widow mines fire, unfortunately, on ultralisks, and that does almost nothing. But it is enough to make the Zerg rethink. These SCVs are like, they won't see us, please. We're not here. There's nothing to see here. Have you seen those things? Oh God, they're like... No, but the Zerg goes home, and it's all good. And look, another... surely this time he gets it. But is it going to cost him a battlecruiser? I don't know. Transfuses fly in, just all them transfuses. The Yamato is ages away. He's not going to get it. He's not going to get it. Too many queens with too much energy. Oh, it's horrible. And of course, the new transfuse doesn't instantly inject as much health, but it then continues to give health over time. I can't actually remember the stats. Let's have a read. So 75 life instantly, and then a further 50 over 7 seconds. Compared to the old, I think it was 150 it used to give in a single shot, or was it 100? 150?
I think it was 150 in a single box.
I think it was 150, yeah. So a bit of oversaturation here. Needs to do a little bit of macro management. But, the income isn't desperate. It looks like the Zerg is getting ready to pile in here. Let's have a quick look at the upgrades tab. There are upgrades. These ultralisks, plus, look, armor 4. It's just vile. These guys are like, run, keep running. No. So here it comes, and this defensive position is pretty strong, but a lot of the tanks are just not involved in this. We need to see the armor shredding missiles come down. They need to happen really quickly, but not on those. No, what happened there? It's a misclick. It's a vile misclick. Is there energy left? There isn't. So this is pretty ugly. The SCVs are trying their best to run towards the siege tanks. Yeah, run for cover, and that is an excellent idea. But needs to do something here, because the whole main base is just wide open. He's just going for a counter. He's just, screw you, I'm going. And it's not a crazy plan. That is a lot of tanks. These can focus down buildings very, very quickly. Nothing here flies. So, the Hydras shoot up, sure, but, you can start flying buildings into the corner and stuff. You never base trade against a Terran, do you? Never, ever, ever. So there are a lot of Hydras here to greet these tanks, though. A lot of Hydras, and actually they're doing a bang-up job. These Hydras with +1, these tanks with, so +2 and +1 plating. But, Hydras are just broken, aren't they? Isn't it? Just broken. What happened there? About 5 Hydras just killed an entire army. Unbelievable, folks. So, Louos 2-0 up and shaping up pretty well here. So, game 3, let's get into that straight away.